Our next speaker is Nori. She came all the way from Budapest to Sofia to tell us about how to start and, more importantly, how to maintain a side project, a hobby project. So please welcome Nori.
So, hi, I am Nori, and as you know now, I would like to talk about side projects and convincing all of you that side projects are great. But before I start, I would like to mention that this is my very first time in Bulgaria, and I'm more than happy to visit this country because it's always good to get to know a new culture, to see your beautiful sights here, and make some new friends. First things first, I have a few questions for you. How many of you have ongoing, active side projects at the moment? Please just put your hands up in the air. Okay, it looks very good. It's more than I was expecting. Another one. How many of you are planning to start a new one soon? Hands up again. Okay. Okay, very nice. All right, so what comes to your mind when I say side project? To me, it's something like this. Maybe you know Commit Strip. Do you know it? No one? Okay. It's a blog about the daily life of developers, and I just love reading their stuff. But one of my favorite from them is this one. I mean, it's only a part of it, but this is the most meaningful part of it. It shows a very typical situation, like having millions of unfinished, never going to end project at the same time. How many of you have ever felt like this? Okay, so you will know what I'm going to talking about. So in some way, I am here to motivate you to do this, to start new side projects, but of course also to finish them. But, but before you could finish one, you should start one. Okay, so to get the idea of what a side project really is, first check out a few very famous ones. And I guess I should start with the two most famous ones, Gmail and AdSense. Both were created by happy Googlers in their 20%, but I'm going to talk about that a bit later. Twitter, Product Hunt, and even GitHub were once a side project. And the list of side projects that became million-dollar startups goes on. But don't rush forward. You might think that I must be crazy about side projects, as I am here and I'm talking about this to you. And the truth is that it is very true. I am crazy about them. So now I would like to show a few of my side projects that I'm really proud of. The very first one I'm telling you about is only slightly related to development, as it is a programming competition for high school students. It's called InfoProg, and a few years back I was even a participant myself, and after I became a university student, they asked me for help. So I'm doing it every year. Another one is a programming camp for small children, like 10 to 12-year-old children. And on this camp, or at this camp, they can learn the very basics of programming, or how to build a robot controlled by Bluetooth, and they usually very love it. And we usually organize it in the summer. The next one is vocab. The story is not so interesting. I just wanted to make an app for my mobile phone, and the fact is I didn't really want to learn how to code for Android and for iOS at the same time. So I was just looking for another option. And then I found the word of cross-platform applications. And for that, you only need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript knowledge. And I had all these, so I just made an app, which is a very simple word game, in fact. And this was my very first application that I published to an app store. And you can even check it in the Play Store. It looks something like this. So if you want to download it and try it out, then you're free. Okay, the next one is something I'm currently working on. It's a local guide, which is called Karancs Medves Kalóz. It's in Hungarian, but it's something I would like to help my local community with. I used Spring Boot and Vue.js with a REST API between them. I'm planning a mobile app in the future too, but you can already check its Instagram feed. In fact, the reason I'm doing this is that around my hometown there are many beautiful sites, but we have very few tourists. And this is something I think I can help. The next one is called the Creighton Maze, and it might be something that could even be your very first side project, because it's especially for developers. The idea is simple. You are trapped in a maze, in the Creighton Maze. You have 1 hour, only 1 hour, to get out, but first you have to collect 3 golden coins. And you only have a REST API, and you have to make a program, of course, which will call this API, and that's how you can get out of this maze. I also put the link here, so if you like the idea, then you can check it out. Okay. Yeah, it looks like this. And one more thing, it's a screenshot of the website, and as you can see in the bottom, there is a winners section. And so I wanted to show you this because I wanted to prove that it's not impossible to get out. So there are many other developers who have already got out of this maze. Okay, so now that we have the idea of what a side project can be, so let's ask a question. Why would anyone want to spend time on a side project? I mean, you might say that you have no time. I guess most of you are full-time developers. Okay? Okay? So after working 8 hours, you might say that you are tired. Or you have a family you would like to spend more time with. And at the weekends, you want to be far away from a computer or the keyboard. And, and one thing, people say that you have time for what you make time for. And I know it's a kind of overused saying, but it is very true. I also have a story of a dad. It's a link so that you can read the whole story later again. He's a dad, and I mean, he's tired, but at the same time, a very proud dad of a newborn daughter. And in his free time, he learned how to program. And after a few months later, building many side projects, learning new technologies, and trying out new stuff, he got a reward, a job offer. So I guess it's quite good to do this project. Sounds great, isn't it? Okay. So you might also say that another disadvantage of side projects would be failure, because it's something that no one would pay for, or no one would praise you if you fail or abandon a side project. And the bitter truth is that that most side projects fail. And we all know this. The majority of them will not even reach the very first release. And GitHub is a graveyard for them. You could also say that it's useless. Spending time on dummy stuff, creating another note-taking app, or an alternative to one used by millions, even billions of people. What for? But let me show you all the advantages. The very first one I would like to emphasize is about learning new technologies, new dev skills. For example, if you are a Java coder, why not try Python with a data science project? Or if you usually do the backend stuff, then why not try out the latest JavaScript frameworks, one of the latest JavaScript frameworks like Vue, React, or Angular? Or if you usually do the coding stuff, maybe deploying your app to Heroku, setting up a database, creating Jenkins jobs, setting up SonarQube to analyze your code could be a challenge for you. We all live in a world where we have nothing else but constantly changing technologies. And I think that all you can and all you should do is keeping up with these trends, I think. The best tool for them is side projects. And you can make some dummy or not so dummy projects which will help you trying out a new library, a framework, or tool. Instead of staying updated with these new trends, you could also learn how to write clean code, how to refactor legacy code, or how to do test-driven development well. Also, you could just try reading a must-read book on the topic and implementing the knowledge at the same time. Another great benefit of side projects is that you practice a lot outside your office hours. Maybe if you know the same, maybe if you use the same technologies at work and on your hobby projects, then you might be able to, you might meet the typical bugs or pitfalls beforehand. So you will get to know the best practices, and you will be able to help others on making the right choice, or you might be able to give advice to others using library A rather than library B. Another something that's worth mentioning is that with this, you will be able to save time and money, even money for your company. The next advantage I would like to mention here is simply the joy of building something. It's nice and fulfilling when you can show something to others that you created. You should be real proud of yourself if you have something that others can download, and use. The feeling when other people are happily using your product is quite satisfying. I hope that many of you have already felt like this, but if not, at least I hope once you will. If you have a big bunch of abandoned Git repositories, then you must know what I was talking about previously when I showed you the comic. So if you have So if you have a lot of old code, it's quite funny to find these long forgotten folders in your computer filled with old code and laugh on them, simply. I even have a file to keep these funny codes at the same place called funny codes. Yeah. Also, a friend of mine once told me that it's very normal to see yourself growing as a developer, and be glad if you can laugh on your code, because if not, then it might mean that you're definitely not improving your skill set. Another great skill that could be simply improved by these old codes is refactoring. Think of it as working with legacy code that you have to make work to do what it needs to do, making small changes line by line, and small but powerful improvements on the long run. Side projects look also great on your CV, because during a job interview, many interviewers like questions like, how many side projects do you have? Or what were your previous projects? Then you will be happily saying that I had this, that, and some other stuff too, which you can show to him or her. It helps building your online presence, and that certainly won't do any harm to your professional evolution. You should always have a side project, as it's one of the best ways to advance your career as a software developer. Bar none is through side projects. In my opinion, it's even more important to have side projects in the first years of your career. For example, if you're a newly graduated student. And I expect that interviewers will be more happy to hear about your side projects, even the unfinished ones. And not only a long list of successful projects will take you to the shiny job. Yes. If one of your projects will get serious, then you can even quit your workplace, start a business, and become an entrepreneur. Although I'm not encouraging you here to quit your workplaces now, but it might happen. Building up a company from scratch has other advantages too. First, if you are on your own or only with your friends, then you will have to do almost everything. I mean, marketing, sales, support, and even system operations. And these are all things, good things to know about as well, I guess. Even a little bit. There is another saying of a friend of mine who thinks that a good side project is one that makes money while you sleep. And sometimes it might do some harm as well, because we all know that people can get crazy about money, even if their projects start making a very few amount of money as well. But don't forget that the primary goal should be always to learn, to advance, to grow. I have a few more advantages of side projects for you here. For example, if you are working on open source projects, or you're building something that is for a community, you might meet other developers, maybe from all around the world, and you can meet them and make some new friends as well. This sounds really good again, isn't it? Also, it's refreshing to leave your comfort zone or do something different than your daily jobs. Last but not least, I would say that it's quite fun because you have the freedom to do whatever you want. You won't have to attend useless meetings. You won't have to convince others of your point of views. And your code will be super consistent, following all the conventions, yours. And of course, you are not having a boss or a client to tell what to do and how to do it. Okay, so now that we know all the disadvantages and advantages, I would like to give you some advice on how you can get the most out of your precious time, which you are willing to spend on working on your side projects. Step 1, find a topic. Usually, when I want to learn a new technology, I build something real, because getting your hands dirty is usually the only way to make sure that you got it right. You need those aha moments, which you definitely won't get by reading or watching tutorials. And we know that many people build to-do apps, and all the tutorials are usually on to-do apps, but please just don't make another to-do app. If you're going to spend your super precious time on building something, then please make sure that it has the least chance of adding value to some other people. So make something useful. Another suggestion: ideas can come anytime, almost anytime. So be prepared, download a note-taking app, or have a notepad with you all the time. Otherwise, you will forget them. If you are still clueless what you could do, sorry, okay, it's again a bug in my presentation. So I have a list of project ideas for you here on my website. You can check it again later, it's a link. And it's a list I usually update when I have a new idea. And so it's growing. You can check it out. If you have decided on the idea, on the topic, then you will need a plan, a document. But don't worry, I'm not telling you here to write a 100 pages long detailed document on something. I guess you are usually used to this because of your jobs. We usually have to write long documents. But I say that it could be even a short, a random text file, a few lines on your core features, on your milestones, or on your goals. And it's very useful to separate this file at the MVP level, because you should limit the scope and set a deadline. Otherwise, you will never finish your project. Step 3, find a community. There are many online forums and groups on the internet, and they are very good for sharing and receiving feedback, even for brainstorming. One of my favorite one is the side project subreddit, because It's very active and well moderated. So you can even use it again for brainstorming. There are many good ideas there. Step 4, build something minimalist. I mean, really. If you are an experienced developer, then chances are that you are going to overestimate your capacity. And it's common to feel like you're more productive alone than at your workplace. And this is very true only to a certain extent. Also, if you don't make your feature list short enough, chances are that you're never going to finish the project, and you will lose the motivation and your interest in a short time. Become a finisher. Despite all the effort you put into a project, things can happen, so you will always have a good reason not to finish a project, like going on holiday, taking German lessons, or just simply reading funny stuff on the internet. But sometimes you have to say yourself, hey, you're going to finish this app and put it in the App Store. No matter how long it takes, but you're going to work on it for at least 1 hour every day until it's done. And we all know that you will be quite satisfied at that moment when you can finish your side project. Okay, step 6, go live. And by going live, I not only mean that you should publish it to an app store, publish your project into an app store, or deploy your website. It could be publishing a library to NPM, open sourcing your code, so other people can use it, learn from it, and even just simply make some feedbacks on it. Spread the word. Post it on your blog, post about it on your blog, on Twitter, on subreddit, even on Hacker News, Product Hunt, or other dev communities. Because this way you are going to receive many feedbacks, a lot, and I hope that you will love receiving these feedbacks. Because the people who write those feedbacks are your actual users or your contributors. One more, go to hackathons. Hackathons are a very good way to learn to do side projects, as they are getting more popular and more frequently organized. It's a great way to gather people to work on something. You are usually closed up with a few people, and you have to work on something, even for a few days, even 3 or 4 days. At the end, you will have a team, a detailed concept, or even a demo version of your application. It sounds good again, isn't it? Last but not least, I would say that you should try changing your workplace. One of my friends told me that they have an experiment day every month, which is only about trying out new technologies. Also, some other workplaces have demo days where anybody from the company can show what he or she is working on at the moment, or in their free times, of course. There is also Google's famous 20% policy, which I was talking about earlier. And it simply means that Googlers can work on anything they want, up to 20% of their working hours. Yes, so it is quite beneficial. It's quite easy to see that it's beneficial also to both for the employee and the employer too. As you can see, your precious time spent on working with side projects can be beneficial, And your small ideas can even grow into big companies. I hope that you're all motivated now to start a side project and also to finish it. In the end, don't forget that in the end, the most important thing is always to keep going and gain experience. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found it useful.
And we have a lot of time for questions. Who have questions? Come on. Questions? There is one.
Hi. So I have a question. You said when we start our own project, we don't have to prove our point to someone else. But if we don't get to prove our point, are we sure it's the best point?
Sorry, could you please
Yeah, so
one more time?
when we start our own business, our own side project,
Yes?
we don't have to prove our point of view to someone else, right?
Yeah, okay.
So how do we know that it's the best point of view? Isn't there a better option?
Okay, so it's not something that someone pays for, so it's your own time, and it's up to you, up to 100%. So I hope that you will feel that it's not going to the very best direction at some point. Yeah. So you can start another one.
And we have another question.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, yeah. Great talk. I got through though. We're motivated. I have a question. Have you been in so many side projects that follow another one and you get lost inside of them?
Oh, well, many times. I show you only a few of my side projects, but I also have abandoned Git repositories, and it's usually easy to get lost in them, so yeah.
So you have one that opens another one and another one, and it becomes a big chain that you never had.
Yes.
Do you lose motivation for the first one, or does it get back when you start again?
I would say that after a few years, I like to go back and finish them. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes only months. Sometimes I just sit down and finish one from the very first word till the last one.
Okay, thank you.
And we have time for one more question. Do we have one more question? Question? Come on. No questions. Okay. So, once again, thanks, Nari.